Hello, friends. Welcome to another episode of All Hands on Tech Live with your host, David Neal. Thanks for joining again. I missed y'all last week. I was out of town speaking at an event and would have loved to have continued to do the stream remotely, but it just so happens because of the timing of the talk that I was giving, it was happening right around the same time as I normally stream. So I decided it would be better to just postpone the stream for last week, and so back on the bandwagon today. Um, Next week I am also speaking, but hopefully, whether I'm remote or back home in my home office here, we'll continue to get together for the stream. Um, in case you're joining us for the first time, I've been going through a series of steps to build a desktop teleprompter app using Node.js and Electron. Um, Electron uses JavaScript, CSS, HTML, and a little bit of Node.js on kind of the back end, and you've got Chromium on the front end, so to speak, to do the rendering of the desktop window and the application. And combined together, you can build some really powerful desktop apps that work on any platform, Mac, Windows, or Linux. And it's not too difficult to do, compared to the alternatives of building a native app for each platform or using any of the other alternative tools that are out there, like Xamarin. Hello from Costa Rica. Nice of you to join us, Jeremias. Thank you for posting in the chat. This, you know, these 1 hour sessions that we're doing together, please take advantage of the opportunity to say hello, to ask any questions along the way. I'll do my best to answer anything that I can, and if I don't have the answer for you today, I will figure out the answer and either post it in the source code repository for the project, or you can always post questions and issues in the repository outside of the live stream. Thanks for joining, Craig from Minneapolis. Barak, nice of you to join. And let's see, Hogwarts Emo Dragon. I see you're charging at the grocery store during a blackout. Well, I hope that works out for you. Um, yeah, and thanks, Mary, for joining. Um, I'm going to as we're about to jump in here and get started. Let me bring up the uh, the source code. If you want to get the source code and follow along, you can get that on my GitHub repository under Reverend Geek / Electron teleprompter. And there's a project set up in there, like a Kanban or software project where I've got some feature ideas and things in there that we can pull from the queue and work on as we go along from week to week. If there's any ideas for the application that you have that you would like to submit and kind of vote on, please do so in the repository. Hi from Toronto. Hello, Ebel from Mozambique. Thanks for joining. I'm going to switch over to Well, first of all, you can see, I want you to first see what we're building. So I'm building a teleprompt application and that it coincides with my setup. So I have a setup here where my main screen is here, and I can see a preview of what I'm working on or what is in my camera. And my camera is up here where I can look directly in the camera. And as I am talking with someone, or I'm in a Zoom meeting or a Google Meet or Skype or Team, whatever system that you're using for doing virtual meetings, Hangouts, or giving a talk or presentation to a group, you can have a script running in your teleprompt that overlays the video or whatever that you have up. So traditional teleprompters, would say take over the entire screen, and you wouldn't be able to see the person that you're talking to. And that's what I wanted to accomplish. All right, Hogwarts Emo Dragon. Please do catch the stream later on. So I've got my desktop screen up here now, and one of the things I do on a periodic basis is check to see if there are any updates. So requirements for the application, if you want to download the source code and take it for a spin yourself, is you need a modern or recent version of Node.js. As of right now, Node 16, version 16 is the latest LTS, which LTS stands for long-term support. That's the supported version. There is a new version of Node in the works that you can also install, version 18, that more or less should do everything. Shouldn't be any issues with using that. But if you do run into some issues, you may need to install version 16. I personally use NVM to manage the versions of Node that I have installed on my computer. NVM stands for Node Version Manager. And to check to see what versions you have installed, you can do NVM ls. And I can see that I have 16.16, 18.7 installed. And I can use NVM ls-remote 16 to list all the versions that are available to install using NVM. And the latest version is what I have installed, 16.16. So that satisfies me as far as do I have the most current version of Node? And then I will then turn around and use npm to make sure that my version of npm is up to date. So I'll do npm ls or outdated, use the outdated command, and use the -g switch to designate I want to look at whatever I have installed globally that's available on the computer. And I can see that there is a new version of npm available. And, it's not a huge jump. I don't know what those changes are. I could go and read the release notes. But for the work that I do, it's been years and years since I've had any trouble with installing an update to npm. So I'm pretty confident that I can go ahead and install it. So I'm going to use the command npm install -g npm. So I'm using npm to install a new version of itself. So I'll let that run. Shouldn't take long. There we go. And then I'm in the project folder for the Electron teleprompter app that we're building, and I'll use npm outdated with no switches to see if there are any outdated dependencies in the project. And we see that Electron's been updated and ESLint has been updated. I know that both of these are developer dependencies, and I can double check that. I can run my code command and bring up Visual Studio Code. I can look at package.json, and I've got a section of developer dependencies, Electron, ESLint, ESLint config reverent geek, and a section of more or less production dependencies, that are used to when the app is running as a, say, if I wanted to deploy this app somewhere, I would need these dependencies to be able to use the application. So to update these dependencies, and I'll go ahead and do that, I need to use npm. And since these are major versions of updates, well, the ESLint is not a major version. So let's do this first. If I do npm update, it's going to see that ESLint needs to be updated and will install it. However, what I expect to see is that npm does not automatically update Electron because it's a major version update. Let's see if that's what happens. Hello, Christian from El Salvador. Hello, Atul MD from India, and hello, Marlene from North Carolina. Thanks for joining. If you ever have any questions about, any of the stuff that we're doing here, put it in the chat. So still waiting on npm update to finish. There we go. Now if I run npm outdated again, yeah, as I suspected, it updated ESLint, but left Electron alone because Electron went from version 19 to version 20. So to update that, we'll just say npm install --save -dev, because it's a developer dependency, Electron latest. It'll take a couple of minutes to download and install that. And as soon as that's done, I'm going to run the app just to make sure that everything works like we expect, the same as when we last left the application a couple of weeks ago on our last stream. Hope everyone is doing well. Next week, I will be at the Kansas City Developers Conference. If any of you on the stream are going to be attending or will be at that conference, let me know. That would be really cool to meet up. All right. It's finished. Let's take a look at, let's run the application. I'm going to use npm start. And the application did load. If you can see that, it's a kind of a translucent, transparent window that has, hey y'all, how's it going? If I minimize the other windows. You should be able to see that with a higher contrast. So this is the app as it is right now. It loads a markdown file. It translates that markdown to HTML and displays the HTML contents as a script or teleprompt window. I can resize the window. I can move it around. I can center it on the page. And then if you can see, like my setup here, I can drag this window over to my screen so that I can see the script right in the camera. So as I'm speaking to someone or giving a presentation or conducting a podcast or interview or whatever kind of application you may have for using a teleprompter, I can continue to see the video or what's on my screen through the script. All right. So everything's still working as we would expect. And looking at the package JSON, we can see that the version of Electron has been updated here in the package JSON. Where we last left off was we were in the process of building a feature into the Electron application so that it would remember the size and position of the window between launches. So as one would typically expect when using a desktop application, the application should remember where they last were positioned on the screen and their size. And this is a common thing that you need to solve when building any Electron application, unless you're building one that's specifically designed to be full screen or a kiosk type application, or if it's always going to be a fixed window size. So we had created this state module that uses the app.get path, which is part of the Electron library. And the app.get path has a number of options available, such as the app data folder, the user data folder, session data, the temp folder, things that should be available on any operating system. And this gives you an API as a developer to access any of these kind of system paths or user paths without having to know the nuances and differences between the operating systems. So you use one API and you can regardless where the application runs, if it runs on Linux or Windows or Mac, you'll get the appropriate folder back. So we want to get the application or the user data path for the application, and we're going to be using a file named app-state.json. We're going to store our application state and be able to retrieve that application state anytime the application loads, and save it when the application closes. So this is our module that has two. It takes in a default config, and it has two functions. It's got a read app state and a write app state, and we're exposing those two functions as part of our module.export. So when we require that module in elsewhere, we'll be able to create an instance of this module, passing in our default config, and we'll be able to use the read and write app things. So in main.js, which is the main starting point for this Electron application, we've got the state manager declared, where we bring in that module and we're passing in our default config, which is this object here. We have a default width and height and a position of 0, 0. And we, in our create window, when we create it, we're using the state to create the browser window, the width, the height, and the X and Y position. And we will, where we left off last time was we did not get as far as saving the state. So we have here a when on close, which is the close event. The application window is closing. We want to save the state of that window. So up here in the save state, right now we're getting the position and the size of the window, but we're just logging it to the console. We're not actually saving it. So we need to use our state manager that we've already declared and use write app state. And we need to pass it an object that is our state. Our state should look like width, height, X, and Y. So I don't remember off the top of my head what position and size are, but we're logging those to the console. So last time I ran it, this is what was printed to the console. Position negative 1553. Let me just copy this from the console and paste it in here. So this is what those values look like. So to save this state, we're going to set a width property, and that's going to be size index 0, because both of these are coming back as an array. So the 0 index of the array is the width, and the index 1 is the height. X is position 0, and Y is position index 1. So the next time we run this application, we should correctly write the app state, or at least call this function. Let's just to make sure, let's go to the state manager, and inside the write app state, I'm going to console log what's being passed in. Okay, let's run it. Here's the window. I'm going to resize it, and I've already repositioned it. I'm going to stick it kind of over here, about the same position as my terminal, and then I'm going to close it. And when I quit, I see printed to the console a width, height, X and Y values. Now, here comes that looks correct. Now here comes the the real test. If we launch this again, is it going to be created in the same spot? Boom. It worked. So we got the window back in the same spot. I hope you can see that. I'll minimize the other windows. So it's the same size and same position as when we closed it. Nice. So that pretty much solves that requirement that we were looking for. Modified a number of files. Let's take out some of these comments in console logs that we put in along the way. We just have one there now. When we ran the application, this is what it read from the file. So we can remove this console log, and we can remove this one. And let's commit all these changes. Updates dependencies. App state successfully saves and loads. And we'll push that to repository. All right. So let's go take a look at the repository. What we have sitting out there today. So I've got a project set up for this Electron teleprompter, and we've got issue number 5, which is a feature request, and it is the save and restore state of the application. So that's the one that we just finished. So I'm dragging that into the done column. Some of the other items that are up for to do is support keyboard arrows and clicker to advanced rewind script. So I want to be able to use either a handheld clicker or my keyboard to be able to jump from section to section in the script so that I can load, say I'm giving a 1 hour presentation and I have a really long script that I need to scroll through. I could, reach to my mouse or a trackpad and scroll the contents of the teleprompter by hand. But what I'd love to be able to do is be able to stand back from my computer and use a clicker and be able to advance through the different sections of the script so that I can, do everything without having to reach for the computer or the keyboard. Also got a feature here called titled Add Ability to Load Any Markdown File. So right now, what we have is inside our client folder, we have a file named content.md. Interesting. Let me run this again. npm start. So I'm getting this text, hey y'all, how's it going? I should be seeing this script that we have defined. So that concerns me that something has happened that this is no longer working like expected. So that's in this preload. So in the preload, we have a DOM content loaded event, just like we would if we were building a web app and we needed to use client-side JavaScript to do something. We're listening for this event, and we are converting we should be converting the markdown that's in this file to HTML. Okay. I'm going to console log just a random message. Is this working? I'm going to relaunch the application. Okay, there's two consoles. There's this one, which is part of Node.js and is it would be like if anything happens in main.js or somewhere related to the main process. So in Electron terms, there's the main process, which is you can kind of think of it as the back end of the application, and then you have the renderer, which is an instance of Chrome or Chromium, and you can think of it roughly as the front end of your desktop application. So you have a main process and one or more renderers. So you can have more than one window that's launched as part of your application. So we need when we log to the console from the from here in this window.add event listener, we're logging it to the console that is part of the front end. So our application, we have the ability to view the Chrome developer tools. And if we look at the console here, we've got an error that says unable to load preload script, and it's looking for source client teleprompter preload.js. Module not found. Path. So in here, I'm requiring in path, but it's not working. So path is a built-in module for Node. And I think what's happening here is when we preload this teleprompter, we need to have Node.js support, and it's not on by default. So to go back to a stream that we did, 2 or 3 weeks ago when we were building this preload script, the preload is designed to be an opportunity to use Node.js to help deliver some things to the front end in a way that is secure and sandboxed. So we have control over it, but once the preload is executed, there's no opportunity for the front end to access any of the Node.js or modules that are intended to be, say, for server side type of applications, or the front end, it needs to be sandboxed so that it can't do, there's no way for someone to do something malicious, be able to load something in. A couple of questions. Hi, hi, Erober 2. You're asking what font do you use? And I use JetBrains Mono. JetBrains is a well-known um, developer company. They build IDEs for different languages. They're known for things like oh idea. I'm trying to think of the name of the. They have a good Java IDE and also one for .NET applications. Um, but they created their own font, and IntelliJ idea. That's what I was trying to think of. Thank you. But JetBrains Mono is fantastic. It has ligatures and lots of other cool features, and I've been using it for a few years now and think it's fantastic. Um, so the teleprompter, I think in this web preferences preload, we can specify that we need, or maybe we have to be explicit in saying we need access to Node.js libraries. So I'm going to go to the Electron documentation and browser window, preload, and we need node integration. So node integration, um, the default is false. So if we turn on this property, the path should work again. So let's go here. Set this to true. Restart the application. And it works. Cool. So, um, again, uh, I've built, I've used Electron enough and for long enough that, um, in the past when Electron was first created, there was no this idea of using a preload um, was not a thing, and it was actually kind of cool that you could use Node in your client side code. I thought that was a really cool feature. What I didn't consider at the time, or what wasn't really apparent to anyone, I mean, I would get some questions about security sometimes, but um, I guess it was determined that having Node integration built into the client or enabled for the client was not just a great idea. That especially if you're loading in external content from other places, like if you're depending on another server or another system that you're loading HTML from, it's possible that there could be a man in the middle attack or some other type of mechanism where some not so great JavaScript code um, could end up building or could be executed and do some things that weren't so great on a person's desktop. Um, Question again. Some people say Electron uses a lot of memory. Is it true? Yes and no. Um, what if I haven't looked personally looked in a while, but I will say that some applications work really really well, and I don't know if they're doing anything special anymore to get those applications to work really well with memory and whatnot. But if you if you look at apps like Visual Studio Code, Slack, GitHub Desktop, and there's a bunch of others. Those apps are all built on Electron. And from an experience standpoint, when I'm using Visual Studio Code, I don't notice that it uses a lot of memory, or it slows my machine down, or it causes any issues. And VS Code is a fantastic app. So um, if they're doing anything special to kind of lower memory usage, that would be a cool thing to figure out. But I believe, Electron had this uh, stigma, or reputation early on, that it used a lot of memory because it uses Node and it uses Chromium. So every time you would create a new window, you were creating a new instance of Chromium, which as everyone kind of figures, Chromium does use a good bit of memory to do what it does. But I think I don't know this for 100% sure, but anecdotally, what I've observed, Electron applications, is I don't think it's an issue anymore. I think they've addressed some of the issues that caused there to be a lot of memory usage, and I think some of it was may have been the fault of the application developers who were building stuff on Electron, and they were creating and holding way too much stuff in memory. So it was the applications themselves that was kind of inflating the issue. So it'd be a good exercise to see, just how much. Um, like, I will bring up Activity Monitor here on my machine and just see if I can figure out how much memory my Electron app is currently using. So I've got Electron, Electron Helper, Renderer. I would say all total, see, 37, 13, 39, 25. Um, all in total, it's a little over 100 megabytes of memory to run this teleprompter app. I don't think that's bad. I think that's I think that's pretty good, actually. Um, yeah, I mean, sure, you could probably build a native application for the operating system that would use a lot less resources to do this one thing, but you would also, it's a trade-off, right? It's like you want to be able to move fast and build something easily and quickly. Um, if you're building a game and it needs to be native, blazing fast, all the optimizations, yeah, maybe that would be a case where you'd want to consider building a native application instead of Electron. Otherwise, I think Electron is pretty fantastic. It's a good trade-off. All right. So we fixed our bug. let's let's commit that. Oh, wait. I don't want to console log this stuff. Is it working? I'll just remove these. Loading script. Fixes issue with loading script. We'll push that. All right. So we have this markdown file. And talking point one, we could let's just make sure that it's still using the same file. Hello stream viewers. Start that. And there's the text. Hello stream viewers. I'll minimize the other windows just to make sure that's more visible. All right, so our script is working again. So back to the list of ideas. We've got about 15 minutes, and again, if you have any questions along the way, let me know. But here's our remaining things that we have right now. We can allow user to customize the CSS. So the idea is, give someone the ability to create some CSS overrides or tweaks so the script looks like they would want it to look. And a big ambitious goal at some point would be to implement a basic markdown editor. So whoever's using the application does not have to go write the script in some other application, but can build it right inside the teleprompter app. So I think the next thing that I want to work on is supporting keyboard and clicker advances. So I just happen to know, because I've worked with things like this in the past, is that when you use a clicker, I don't have one like right here on my desk in front of me, but when you press the advance button on a clicker, it's actually that uses the same key press code as if as pressing the right arrow on your keyboard. So it sends the same signal, if you will. So the clicker is like a keyboard input, but it only supports a handful of keys, a handful of key presses. So in JavaScript on the front end or HTML, you can listen in client-side JavaScript for key presses. And if you get a right arrow key press, then you know to advance to the next section, or a left key arrow would be to go backwards to the previous section. And if we build this so that the keyboard works, then we know a clicker is going to work as well, which is pretty handy. You can support both in the same code. So, how do we do that? We're going to use some clever HTML tags and some JavaScript to be able to jump the scroll position of the content that we're looking at. This content.html file, that's old. That was from when we were first building the application before we switched to using Markdown. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that. So in teleprompter.html, we need some JavaScript to do this. So I've got already a placeholder here for a JavaScript file. So I'm going to uncomment this and create a new file, teleprompter.js. And just to just to make sure that this is working. I'm going to log to the console here and run the app. And I can bring up the developer tools using, let's see, Option Command I. Let's try that. Yep. And we do get log to the console that this is from teleprompter.js. So our client side JavaScript is working. If I can increase the font size of that so that you can see it better. Um, theme, sources, workspaces. It's probably in here somewhere. I'll have to wait. I'll have to figure that out offline and hopefully get that looking better for the stream later on, because I know that's got to be pretty small to read on the stream. All right, so we know that that's working, and I'm going to refer back to a proof of concept that I built, because I don't remember off the top of my head how I solved this before. So I'm going to go to my GitHub repository, and I've got my Electron teleprompter proof of concept that I had worked on before. And in the client, let's see, in the preload, yeah, I didn't do anything there, I don't think. So the client side JavaScript, we've got a key down, handle key, and a jump to section. So this is how I would go about doing this um, on, from the beginning again. Is looking at, there's a key down event, and we can use add event listener key down. The document. And let's see, JavaScript, key down, right arrow. Of course, Stack Overflow. I got left, up, right, down. Well, let's just see. Let's just console log the event. Here's a, we'll kind of reverse engineer and see see how it works. Just observe what the keyboard event looks like. So if I press the left arrow or the right arrow, I got to give that focus first. We get keyboard event is trusted true, key is arrow right, code is arrow right, location 0, control key is false. There's a lot of properties, but we can look at, we could use the key code, we could use the key, which is set to, as like a constant of arrow right. We could use the code. Any of those. So in our JavaScript code, we can say if event dot key, is it key? Yeah, event dot key equals arrow right, advance to next section. Else if event dot key equals arrow left, assuming that's what it is. Let's make sure. So I'm clicking on this window to make sure it has focus. I'm going to press the left arrow key on my keyboard. I accidentally pressed the Alt at the same time, so I got both. So it is arrow left. Advance to next session. Go back to previous section. And if I remember correctly, here's my default content right now. If I remember correctly, what I ended up doing before was using these header sections as being what are the kind of the pages of script that I want to jump from one to the next. I want to use the headings as a way of being the anchors. I want those to go to the top of the page when I advance forward. I want to go the next one to load and go next. Craig wrote, so that you know of, does Electron have any unofficial / community support for any platform besides Windows, Mac, Linux, and possibly iOS, Android? Interested in legacy and or unique platforms such as Amiga, BOS, Haiku, BlackBerry, Windows Mobile, etc. I do not know if there's any support for other platforms besides Windows, Linux, and Mac OS. But that's a great question, and I would suggest asking in the there's a Slack community for Electron that's pretty active, that has some of the folks that are part of the core contributors to the code. If anybody knows, it's probably going to be one of them that's going to probably have an ear for what other kinds of things may be going on in the Electron community. But as far as I know, there's no support for anything outside of Mac Linux. So no Android, iOS mobile support either at this point. I don't believe there is, because in order for Electron to work, it needs Node.js, and it's designed to run on top of Node. A Node is like the core brains of the application. So until you can run Node.js on mobile, I don't think Electron is going to be an option. So, but as Ebel pointed out, for mobile apps, there's probably better solutions for building cross-platform mobile apps. It's been a while since I've looked on mobile platforms, so I don't know what the best options are these days. I know there are things like Ionic and Sencha, and gosh, I don't even remember now what all there are. And of course, there's things like Xamarin for building cross-platform mobile apps. But yeah, Electron is just for desktop for now. But there are definitely HTML, CSS, and JavaScript based apps, platforms for Android and iOS that you can take advantage of. And I do think one of the most popular ones is Ionic. All right. Well, this is about as far as we can go for today. I am going to shut down the stream here in just a moment. If you have any other questions that you want to relay before I do so, be glad to answer them now. Otherwise, I will see you on the next stream, Thursdays at 2 p.m. Eastern, unless I'm out of town. And even if I'm out of town, if there's a way for me to do one of these streams remotely, I will do it. Question came across: do you use Twitter? Well, absolutely. I am Reverent Geek on all the platforms. So if you want to follow me on Twitter, I am Reverent Geek. David Neal on LinkedIn, Reverent Geek on Instagram, Reverent Geek on YouTube and Twitch. Of course, I'm streaming these through Pluralsight, but if you want to contact me directly, you can go to reverentgeek.com and check out my about info, and it's got links to all the different ways that you can contact me. And again, if you want the source code for this project and follow along and be able to work on it yourself, be able to contribute ideas and suggestions to the tasks that are out there, go to github.com/reverentgeek/electron-teleprompter. And yeah, let me know that you are interested in helping me build this thing. Give me some ideas and help submit some suggestions on how we can build a better app together. Thanks again for joining me. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see you again on the next All Hands on Tech Live with your host, David Neal. See you again soon.